Hello, everyone. Um, so today I have a more philosophical topic to talk about. Now, this isn't anything existential or whatnot, although, maybe the conversation will go there. But today, later, I will be talking about the tragedy of the commons, which is a ironically common example of a economic property that is also prevalent in philosophical debate. So first off, I'll talk about what's going on the screen here. So I have the optimizer running again, and we should be hoping to see that come into play soon. You can see that it's actually stuck. The stuck value is now at 5, which actually I should probably move that so you can see it a little better. Let's see if that, I think that's a little better. So yeah, you can see that the stuck value is at 5. So if that persists through this generation, we should see the optimizer at least turn on. So what that means is you will see a message on the screen over here. Sorry, the screen is reversed for me. So you should see a message on the text over here, and it will say optimizing and a bunch of dots, just saying that it's going through that many rounds of it. And if it does not improve, then it will go on with its business. But if it does, then it will say optimized, and the stuck value will go back down to 0. Now, just to reiterate what the optimizer is that it takes the if statements that are currently in the best program and attempts to reorder them so that possibly an if statement that is more important can be heard as opposed to being blocked out by a previous by a later if statement that is canceling it out. So this is just to sort of fine-tune what's already the best program so that it can propagate that better version of the best program through the next few generations. Now, obviously, if a better program comes along, it will completely block out that new program, but odds are the better program will have aspects of that new program with the new order in its own DNA. So here we go. We're seeing the optimizer going, and it doesn't look like it optimized. But like I've explained in the past, there is a humongous magnitude of possibilities for the order of 32 different if statements. So because of this, the best order is extremely hard to find. And what I'm hoping to do with this addition of code is to randomly find a better solution. Not necessarily the best solution, but a better solution. So I want to see if that will change anything in how the program runs its course as it approaches exhaustion, and if when it would normally be at exhaustion, if it gets any better. Now, we have seen a picture or an idea of what the best program the previous running could make. So that is a program where it goes slightly up slowly, and it's an L shape, and then it flips back and forth until it catches the ball, and then it holds on to it, and then it even chases the next ball when the next ball drops. So that's an impressive feat, and we are hoping to see something along that line, if not better, from this running. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, you will know that I did add this optimizer into the environment project already. That's because I was a little disappointed with the previous running of the environment project with the new memory updates. So I wanted to see if the optimizer would at least give it a little kick in the right direction. But I haven't seen too much with that. Now, the problem is there's only 5 programs to work with in the environment program because I wanted the generations to be quick. Because there are so many different instincts that it has to learn, I wanted it to be able to get through a bunch of generations and sort of drop back down and get back up. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's faster in learning. It just means that it gets through the processes of getting stuck and closing out and knocking back down to a lower level and then going back up. a little faster. So, like I said, that's not necessarily a better solution. I'm just trying to test the waters, and also that was already what I had done in the previous runnings of the environment project. So I didn't want to change that around in the off chance that that the optimizer is the main thing that's helping out the program. So in a science experiment, you don't want to change too many variables, because the more variables you change, the harder it is to prove which change in a variable made the improvement. Now, in my case, I'm just trying to create something that is successful. So if I change a bunch of variables and it's successful, I'll be happy. But it would be nice to know exactly what is the best possible combination of features. So that is why we're doing the testing here, because like I've said in the past, I know what the ball drop program can do. So I know what the ball drop task can do. I know what the AI can achieve with the ball drop task. So I want to see if it can either achieve that faster or achieve something greater in about the same time, with the new additions. Now, even if it took longer to achieve something greater, that would still be an improvement in my eyes, because a extended time of learning is better than just a quick burst and then being stuck. So those are the things we're looking for, and I'm not sure if we'll see it, but that's yet to be seen. Obviously everything here is random, so I have no idea whether this will be successful. So that's the idea with what's going on here, and with what's going on in the environment project. I have a checklist made out, and I've shown you this before. I wanted to get down the outline per se of what the new update for Environment 3.0 will have in it. So I have written out a checklist for me to start working on it, and I am aiming big. I'm aiming for a higher change in quality than I would normally aim, just because I think that this is going to be a long-term project, so I want to get the best option I can out of this. You can see actually the program that's running right now is achieving that L shape, and we're only on generation 25. I think this was around the same time that the previous running achieved this sort of intelligence. So someone might want to check me on that if they go back and see my previous videos, but I currently do not have the time to check that. But my door just locked itself. That's kind of weird. So that's generally what's going on with the AI and with the environment project. So I will be working on the improvements to update it to the next level in the next week or so. I don't think that I will have it anywhere close to finished by Wednesday, so don't expect that, but do expect updates. I do hope to at least break the surface of that by Wednesday, so that I can give you a perspective on how long it's going to take and what problems I'm coming into, because I want this channel to see the whole process. I don't want to just surprise you with the finished product. Now, every once in a while, if I have a new idea, I may wait a little bit to tell you guys, because I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, because obviously things in your head don't necessarily come out in words the way you want them to, or at least in my case. Some people are fine. But so that's the general idea with the AI, and so I'm going to play a quick ad, and I'm going to move on to my main topic for the day. So I'll be right back. All right, I believe we're back. So today I will be talking about the tragedy of the commons. And so I don't know if I mentioned that specifically, but that is the main topic that I'm talking about. And so you may have heard this in an economics class or in a philosophy class. This is a just sort of an example that someone back in the 1800s threw out as a possible learning experience, and it has become a good metaphor and a good analogy for a variety of different situations, to solve problems and to just sort of get an idea of what's going on. So so I'll just start off by saying the original example. So the tragedy of the commons. The commons, which is not necessarily what we would think of today. So what the commons it was an open land that was available to everyone for grazing their animals, and this is a slang term that was used by people in in 1800s Britain. So the commons was, like I said, it was a big field, and anyone could go let their animals graze the field, eat the grass, and whatnot. So this raises a lot of economic questions. So this raises a lot of economics questions. So obviously, there's only so much grass and so much land that can be grazed, and if you overgraze that land, then the land dies and it doesn't become a replenishable resource. So then it's no longer available. And so what happens is, let's say that everyone grazes one animal on the land, and so this creates a sustaining ecosystem. The animals are well fed. Then the grass is able to regrow because there's not too many animals grazing it, and then so the animals are being everyone's having an equal share of this land. Now, common economics would say that if there are more resources available, people will attempt to acquire those resources. So what the idea in this analogy is that if there is more land to be grazed, then someone will say, hey, maybe I could have two animals and graze two animals in this land, and then I would have more money than the next guy. Well, the problem with that mentality is, yes, there may be enough land for one person or maybe even three people to graze an extra animal, but that means that those three people, or however many people it is, will be more well off, or will be better off in terms of economic standing than the rest of society. And the problem with that is when people see that other people are doing better than them, they will figure out what they're doing, and they will start trying to implement that into their own way. So then more people will get two animals and graze them, and then the people who originally had two animals will say, okay, now everybody's on an equal playing field with us. We got to up the game because we have more resources now, we have more money, so we're going to get three animals, or we're going to graze for longer. And the problem with this is when there's no regulation in how the community resources are divvied out, then common economics and the idea that humans are just jerks tells us that everyone will take as much as they can. And the problem with that is, as a society, it doesn't work. It's unstable. So the problem with that is when you overgraze the field, then there is no longer a field to graze, and everyone loses. So we talked about this a lot in my philosophy class that I took I took last year, and so my professor gave us a sort of hands-on example, and he handed everybody a piece of paper, and so everybody he gave them two different pieces of paper. One was yellow, one was blue, and so basically one meant that you cheated and the other one meant that you didn't cheat. And what happens, so what he would do is he would say that if you choose to cheat, then you will get 5 extra points on a grade. But if you don't choose to cheat, but if more than a third of the people cheated, then nobody would get extra points. So what happens is he would say, okay, everyone close their eyes, and then on 3, hold up a piece of paper based off of your decision. So he would count to 3, everyone would hold up a piece of paper, and when you get around to counting it, almost everyone cheated. Because if you don't cheat, then you have a worse grade than everyone else. And so the idea is that a small number of people can get away with it, but a large number of people will think that they can be part of that small number of people, and then nobody succeeds because the entire resources are cut up. So then he upped the ante. He said that if it was the same situation, so if a third of the people cheated, then nobody would. If more than a third of the people cheated, then nobody would get it. But also, if a random person out of the cheating section would be penalized 5 points. So 5 points would be taken off of a grade. So it was reverse extra credit. And so what this does is it's adding in the idea of regulations. So if someone goes past the regulations, then they're penalized. We see this in society. There's regulations on things like fish and wildlife. So if people go fishing too much and if they catch too many fish, or more than they're allowed to for that specific time period, then if they get caught, they are penalized for having that, and they can have their equipment taken away and whatnot. So when my professor did the experiment again, and he had everyone close their eyes and count to 3, and then hold up a piece of paper, I personally cheated just because I was willing to take that risk, and I mean 5 points in that class particularly wasn't that much. But the idea is that in any case, in any specific case, people will always cheat. And the thing is that people will always cheat the system, so you need to create a system that forces the majority of people not to cheat. You can't force everyone to cheat because everyone to be compliant, because that's just human nature. Someone will try to find a loophole, and someone will try to exploit the system so that they are getting more of a benefit than everyone else. And the thing is, you have to create, so that's the reason that laws in society are so important. Because, yeah, some people are going to break the law, but you need to create a law that is severe enough so that not everyone breaks the law, obviously, but a majority of the people don't break the law, so that the society as a whole will still function. You will always have false negatives, false negatives. So people will always get by breaking the law, and so it's hard to create a system where everyone follows the rules. But in terms of economics, you can create an efficient system where people still break the rules, but if you threaten enough penalty for breaking the rules, then the majority of people will still follow the rules. Now, I know this was a lot going quick, but I'll summarize. So the tragedy of the commons is an analogy to a field of land where everyone in the society can graze their animals freely. And so if everyone just grazes one animal each, or for a small period of time, then there is enough field for everyone, and there's a little bit extra. So that extra is the gray area. You can't use more than that, but if people cheat within that range of gray area, then society still functions as a whole. And so that's the idea, is that with human nature, people will always cheat, but you can get by as a group if most people will follow the rules. And so society has to just set up regulations so that that happens. Now, I hope this was a good explanation for you. I have left a link in the description if you want to read up more on the history of that. It's just Wikipedia, but in a quick Google search will get you all you want to know about this. This is a very popular idea in economics and philosophy. So that's all I have to say on that topic as a whole. And I will be playing a short ad, but I will get on to my last section, which is the normal drawing section in Paint. So I will be right back. Let me just switch the screen here so that we have Paint up. I don't have it running yet. There we go. I'm going to switch it. There we go. Okay, so like I have in the previous streams, I will be doing my normal random paint drawing segment. So I got my calculator here, and I will get my first number, which is 16, and that is a toilet. This is off to a great start. My second number is 24, which is starving. Actually, no, that's clothe, which is a verb. And my third number is 17, which is pointy. So, this seems pretty straightforward. So we can have a, let me pull this so I'm looking at the screen. So let's say we have a toilet to begin with, and alright, I've lost my bearings there. Let's say we have a normal toilet, and it will have a back and a bowl, and then we will have this weird shape in the back that allows the water to get flushed out in a vacuum. And then so we have the top, and that is our toilet. We can have a handle, and I'm not sure why it's a circle, but we're going to assume it's some sort of prototype twist handle that is allowing for a selection of the maximum or minimum or anywhere in between amount of pressure for the flushing mechanism. It's an economically friendly toilet. So we have our little green leaf here to symbolize that it is friendly to the environment. So if we have a pointy toilet, then obviously the toilet I have drawn is incorrect. So we will show that this is actually a sharp toilet. It may be a modern twist on the current toilet design. I know that when you get to a higher state in society, you tend to have fancy toilets. So we will assume that this is some strange eagle-mouthed toilet that engulfs, and I'm glad that we didn't have to do starving, because that would have just had way too many defecation jokes. So this toilet has a moment here, moment M, that shows the rate of the angular velocity of this swing here, and this pointy toilet seat will possibly cause problems if it were at an angle other than 0 or 90, but we will assume that most people are up to the challenge of moving the toilet seat to one of the preferred positions. So we will eliminate that problem from our analysis. So then we need to consider how this toilet would be clothed or be clothing something. Perhaps it could be the clothing itself. So it could have a opening here and a symmetric opening on the other side for a perhaps a small child to sit in, so that this said child can go to the bathroom whenever they wish, but they can immediately flush with a twist or a torque in the engineering community this way to a preferred amount of pressure, so that the waste can be removed adequately and the parents can go on with their daily lives, not having to worry about cleaning a child. That is not what I wanted. Obviously, I have been slacking on my closing in of my shapes here. So here we should be able to color that, and no, we cannot. I see where the problem is. So I will continue to babble until I succeed at what I'm trying to do, and I have failed you once again. I do see where the problem is this time, so I will move on to clearing off this problem, and I will this time scan the area for more problems, although I am not seeing any, so I will continue. Now, I do foresee some problems with this design. There would be some water leakage here with a mass flow rate of m dot. This would equate to some volume of water in gallons. So this could be L gallons. I'm not sure why I would use the variable L, but I could not think of anything specific to its necessity. So this would cause a problem unless we had some sort of plug to go here that would allow the leg to exit the toilet through the bottom, but at the same time not allow water to exit the toilet. There could also be some sort of design where there is a channel here that allows the water to flow between the legs but not around the legs. Now, there will always be some sort of mist coming out of the toilet, and this is where we will see a Q out, and that's the rate of heat out, and also a m dot where we are losing some water, but this with a channel system would be much more efficient in terms of not losing internal energy. So surprisingly, I think that we have a fairly well analyzed picture here, and I think that we should be able to move on with our lives knowing that a toilet seat or a toilet pants would be applicable to babies. Now, this would have to be either a fairly light toilet, or it would need some sort of strange pulley system that would allow it to walk on a stand that had wheels attached to the bottom, so that the baby could move around and not be burdened by the weight of this of this toilet. If anyone knows anything about porcelain, the density allows it to be fairly heavy for how small of a piece of porcelain you get. Now, this does not equate to anything of metal, but it is fairly heavy as a whole, because you can imagine that it's just a rock. So babies don't do very well at carrying large quantities of rocks, and so if we wanted this to work, there would have to be some sort of weight displacement system. This could be similar to a baby walking device, because we know babies need help walking. I need help walking every once in a while, but that's on a side note, and maybe a story for another day. So we can assume that it'd be something like one of these bouncy baby walking devices, and the baby would be able to move freely, and even better than if it were not wearing the suit as a whole. Now, there would also be problems of waste disposal, but this could be solved by a long chain of pipes that would lead to wherever you wish. And the added benefit of this whole system is that a baby would have a minimum possible range of walking, because those pipes would act as a leash. So it would be possibly even a more society acceptable version of a child leash. So I think we have a finished picture here. It seems to be fairly well explained. So I will be signing off here, but I want to thank you guys for watching, and like I said, I will be working on the Environment Project 3.0 in the days to come, so that I can have something to show you guys on Wednesday, if not at least talk about. So I want to thank you for watching once again, and I will see you on Wednesday.